Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to this week's edition of Imperial as One's Belonging series, where we explore the experiences of individuals from Black, Asian, and minority ethnic backgrounds. And today I'm really happy. I say this every week, but I'm really happy that we've got Yoyo Dixon with us. And Yoyo Dixon is a senior teaching senior laboratory manager. I don't know what I'm saying now. All right, senior laboratory manager at the Department of Cancer and Surgery at Imperial College. Yo-Yo, it is such a privilege to have you with us. And I'm gonna just ask you my first question. And that question is just about your sense of belonging, your sense of identity. As you were growing up, what gave you your sense of identity and belonging in your family or growing up?
So my ethnicity is Chinese. I came from Hong Kong to start with. I was born there to Chinese parents. So however you look at me, I am Chinese,
right?
Even though I've been living here for a long time.
Yeah.
I came over in the late 90s for further education here.
Yeah. So you came over here. So when you were growing up, what was it like? What was the home environment? How did your how was it that you were perceived? How did they encourage you? Was there a emphasis on education? How was it for you?
It was tough. My mom gave me a lot of pressure. She kind of a bit like a tiger mom.
Right. Okay.
So she wanted me to do well. She wanted me to do well in education. Wanted me to get good grades. From memory, most of the school holidays, I went to summer, holiday courses. They're not holiday camp as such, but more like a holiday courses, whether it's for English, mathematics, or drawing, etc. That's what she wanted me to do. So got a lot of pressure really. I did quite well in GCSE. Like equivalent certification in Hong Kong. And then I did Hong Kong A level, but I suffered a lot of pressure really. I couldn't sleep really well during the exam period. So needless to say, I didn't do as well as we wanted to.
Yeah.
And then I said to my mom, I do not want to stay here as stay there in Hong Kong to redo the A level. Please just let me go. So essentially, I said to her, well, I got this amount of money in my bank account. I'm happy to buy a one-way ticket. If she was happy to just let me go abroad and try it.
Yeah.
So yes, there you go. I'll spend all my Chinese New Year money, all those years I've been saving on that one-way ticket. So I came all the way to the UK. Now I wanted to go to England to start with, but because they are being parents, they are parents, they were very about me. So they wanted me to go to Scotland because at the time my cousin and my aunt were there. So I went to Scotland and spent a year there. I had a nice time. I really enjoyed it. Because it was so free. And I had no more pressure. And Scotland was a lovely country, except that I didn't get along too well with my cousin. Then after a year, I moved down to London. So I went to London to do my undergraduate degree in King's College London. So just on my own really, and just like most of the university students, they go away. They left home, they go away and start their new life in a way. So I spent 3 years in London because there was opportunity for me to apply to do an industrial placement after my second year. So I went to Belgium. and did a 1 year industrial placement there. And that was another fun year because there were lots of international students came from Portugal, the Netherlands, Spain, France, etc., doing the same thing as I was doing. So we all had fun. Belgium being the center of Europe, you kind of just get on a train, you end up in a different place already, a different country, and enjoying all the culture, etc. I did suffer a bit of homesickness when I was in Belgium because we were living in a really small town. There hardly anything there. You could walk around 10 times easily, maybe in a couple of hours. So I was missing some Chinese food, etc., especially around the time the Chinese New Year. So Chinese New Year usually, if you're in Asian countries, you get public holidays.
Yeah.
You don't really get that here.
No, not at all.
So around that time, I was getting a bit of homesick because I really wanted some Chinese culture, Chinese food, you know, like comfort food.
Yeah.
So the student that I made friends with, they could really tell that I was missing home and stuff. And what they did is they Google, can't remember, there must be Google at the time. Anyway, they looked up, and actually the nearby city, Antwerp, they had a small Chinatown. So then we all went to Antwerp that weekend and had dim sum for lunch, and everybody enjoyed themselves, including myself, obviously. And for some of them, it was their first time trying something different, as in terms of cuisine. But they really enjoy it. And it was also snowing on that day. It was quite cold there, so that's added an extra bonus. After Belgium, obviously, I went back to London to finish my degree. Now, the friends I made there, and they all knew very clearly they wanted to do a PhD after, but it wasn't clear to me. But what was clear to me is I didn't want to go back to Hong Kong. so I was just looking around. Okay, what should I do? I didn't think I was ready to actually start working yet at the time. So I was thinking to do a master degree until like about 3 months before I graduate. That maybe I should do a PhD just like the other people. They all been talking about it. They secure a studentship to do so. So I was quite late to start looking around for a PhD studentship. But I was lucky. I came across one where and that was actually in Imperial. If I remember well, it was a lab in South Building in South Kensington.
Right.
I enjoyed the interview. Although I didn't get it at the end. However, the principal investigator must have liked me or something. He forwarded my CV to his working partner, collaborators, etc. Turned out one of his collaborators just been awarded a PhD studentship. So it got a vacancy available, and then I went there to have to do the interview, and then he offered me the opportunity. So I did my PhD in Queen Mary University of London. Had a great time again, living in the center of London, enjoying the student life, doing all the research work, etc. And I got the opportunity to go to quite a few conferences as well. Then when I finished my PhD while still writing up in a way and waiting for my fiver, I got a short-term contract as a research scientist with Pfizer. So basically I'm a contractor. So I wasn't employed by Pfizer directly. So I joined them, but I didn't like it. I didn't feel I belonged there. The main reason for that, I don't know whether it's still now the case, but at the time, Pfizer basically treat you completely different
Mm-hmm.
if you don't work for them directly, as in you're not employed by them. I was employed by an agency, and you got a different lanyard for your staff card, very clearly that you are not Pfizer employees.
Yeah.
You just get different treatment.
Yeah.
And it's just so obvious. Everybody seems to look at you differently, treat you differently, talk to you differently, and something down the line might also be like, oh, we can't share this with you because you don't work for Pfizer directly.
Yeah.
And another thing is, at the time, because I was moving around, and I was with my partner, and we would keep moving. You know what it's like when you were just you were students, and then when you were just finishing being a student and started working.
Yeah.
So he was quite into music, and he has like boxes of various musical CDs. And then at that time, if you remember, this platform called mini disc. So every music he had at the time, he already had them in the mini disc. And to him, he think that those boxes of CDs are a burden. Every time you move, you have to move them. So then we wanted to just sell it or get rid of it.
Yeah.
So that is less thing to move. Now in Pfizer, they have this Gumtree eBay internal platform that you could sell secondhand stuff. So I saw the opportunity. So I hit my partner CDs there to sell. Now we were not thinking to make profit, or we want to just get rid of it. So I put them down as £1 per CDs.
Yeah.
It was easy to deal with this number. 10 CD, £10, you see.
Yeah.
I think it was within a couple of days. There was a couple of people came very mean, came and looking for me and take me away, and then took me to a room, and then there was this investigation started. They were basically questioning me. So they received an accusation that I was selling non-authenticated CDs. And I was like, no, they are real, genuine CDs. And they were saying, oh, because they're so cheap, they can't be.
Yeah.
Well, I could bring you the CD. So I explained the story. I brought in the CD for them to look at it. And obviously it turned out it was a wrongly accusation. Now, never really got to the bottom who made the accusation, but somebody at the time appeared to just assume, okay, this person with a Chinese surname. At the time, I had a Chinese. I was using my maiden name.
Yeah.
And she was selling pirate CDs. That's the assumption they were making.
Yeah.
So it was such an awful experience.
Yeah.
And there was lots of tears at the time as well.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I didn't feel I belonged there, so I started looking around. Okay, I don't like Sandwich. I don't like the company. I don't want to stay there. So I started looking around, and I came across with a position at Imperial College London. It was a postdoctoral research associate, and I applied for it. I got invited for an interview, and the PI at the time offered me the job. If I remember correctly, it might have been the same day. So I obviously took the opportunity, right? I just want to get out of Pfizer.
You want to get away from there.
Get away from the people, because I never felt welcomed.
Yeah.
So I moved to. So I joined Imperial College in 2008 as a postdoc.
Yeah.
It was for 2 years, the contract, roughly 2 years. And then after I've been doing a postdoc for 20 months roughly or something, I realized I don't want to be a scientist. I want something more stable, rather than on a contract, every 2 years or every 3 or 5 years, etc. Because as a scientist, it depending on your funding, really.
Yeah.
So I looked around, and as a as a contract-based person at Imperial, they don't really treat you that differently. You don't really notice it compared to Pfizer.
Yeah.
You got the same color, as everybody else as a staff for Imperial. But what Imperial College does offer is, if you are interested in one of the vacancies within the Imperial College and you met the minimum requirement, you can be offered opportunity to go to the interview. Yeah, obviously then it's subject to your performance in the interview whether you can get offered the job or not. So opportunity came up at the Department of Surgery and Cancer for laboratory manager. So I went for it. Went to the interview and then I got offered the job. Except that where I was interviewed and where I was shown on the day was not what I was going to work at the end.
Was it false advertising?
Well, not really. It's a complicated how do I put it? The division that I was working for, it kind of split into a couple of buildings. It happened they used one of the meeting room in one building, wasn't the other building. So I was having an interview in a very nice building, but on day one I was told that actually I had to work in another building across the same campus, but that building is not very nice. It wasn't very nice. For those who based on Hammersmith campus would know which building I'm referring to. Yeah. But it doesn't exist anymore, that building. It's been locked down already. It's the cyclotron building, if anyone heard of it. It was an awful building. It was very old, lots of problems. Literally, when I started, just like mountain of problems came to me immediately. And it wasn't very clear to me until I actually started that the vacancy is actually for two. So which means there was another person recruited to doing basically more or less the same job as I was doing, but just for different buildings and slightly different area. And we start literally on the same day. Yeah. So now it did question, it did come to me whether I was being offered the same opportunities as the other person at the time, because it didn't appear some of the things that the other person was doing, I was given an opportunity to try to do so. Yeah. And the other person is not BAM, it's not BAM, but while I am. Anyway, I don't know whether it was or not, but it did question me at one point, only because I've been participating various BAM activities, and then people ask, and then it just came across my mind. That's all. I was just going to
interject in there and to ask that question about. There's several questions that I would like to ask actually. Yeah. But I don't want to. I'm going to let you finish your story, and then I'll ask you a few questions as we go along.
Okay. So anyway, I don't know whether it was or not, but then after I joined Department of Surgery and Cancer, basically a few months later I got married, and then the next couple of years my daughter came along. So whether it was kind of like my manager or the department or the division was thinking that I had a young family and just trying to be supportive. The way they did some of the things wasn't quite over to me. Yeah. Perhaps they just thought maybe I might not be able to manage it, if you see what I mean. But so I don't know exactly, but that's how it went. But all those years, because two people essentially have the same ability doing the same job, the progress would be very limited, because you can't essentially do it for both at the same time. The department then has some restructuring, and a new role was created, and the other person was more interested in that area and moved on. And then I just took over the other area as well until the Faculty of Medicine restructure. That's when I become the senior laboratory manager, overlooking the whole department in terms of health and safety and stuff. So that pretty much my story.
Yeah, no, that's it's fascinating. There's a couple of incidences or a couple of things which I wanted to just pick up on, which was one, there was this issue about when you transferred from Hong Kong to Scotland and then to London. What was the attraction or the appeal of coming to, one, leaving Hong Kong, and two, you seem to have been drawn to London. Scotland, although you said Scotland was nice, it still didn't seem to capture you in the way that you were, the excitement. What was it?
Right. Okay. So when I left Hong Kong, why UK? Obviously, Hong Kong has had a strong relationship with the UK in the past as a British colony, and because my aunt and my cousin were in the UK. Now Scotland, I didn't feel it was for me, yes, because Scotland is where I was. It was in Glasgow, so it was a big city. But it just didn't give me an enough wow factor.
Right.
London seemed a bit more similar to Hong Kong, like busier, if you see what I mean. Because I'm used to, well, at the time I used to being busy.
Yeah.
like lots of things to do, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Like Scotland is more laid back in a way, more like a countryside thing at the time anyway. And what I really wanted, just wanted to be away from my cousin. I just want to go somewhere that's just on my own and start fresh there. You know what I mean? So I remember for UCAS application, I think you chose 6 choices or something, and then you get your offer.
Yeah.
And then because so look at the offer, I was like, oh, London is fine enough from Scotland. So I just went for it.
So when you came into London and you were kind of like studying and everything like that, did you gain a greater sense of belonging? Was that freedom also part of what helped you to gain your sense of?
Yes. The freedom, it was part of the factor. And because I just moved there being myself. Obviously I make friends, but then it's being myself and stuff. The belonging, it was gradually built up that I felt belong there. I haven't said that I don't actually live in London. I work in London for Imperial College, but I don't live in London. I live outside London. For various reasons. But
that kind of like when you were a student, that and being able to gain that sense of almost, I remember you said about there being pressure, so feeling as though you weren't as pressurized.
No, because I was so far away from my parents. Seriously, when I was in Hong Kong, I felt I was constantly being pressured. It was mainly from my mum more than my dad. My dad was fairly easygoing, really. It was mainly from my mum. Like on that plane, I was just so happy.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. And so when you then kind of like it was interesting that you then went off to Belgium. So you had come from Hong Kong to Scotland, to London, and then you experienced that year in Belgium. And kind of like you don't have that kind of like historical ties between Hong Kong and the UK. With Hong Kong and Belgium. So, and that process of almost like isolation, as it were.
It did, but it was at the time. I remember I was excited about it because I've never been to Belgium before.
Yeah.
And I was working for Johnson and Johnson, Janssen Pharmaceutica.
Yeah.
So it was all new and it was exciting.
Yeah.
Until it was the Chinese New Year time. Okay, I'm missing him a bit. I didn't choose Belgium as such. It just not every place is offer industrial placement, but then it just happened that is the opportunity at the university, and then they threw us the student that were interested to Belgium to have the interview, and then they offer you. Up to them, they make the decision, and then they offer the student the industrial placement. So that was, from what I remember, that was the only opportunity. Actually, I don't remember going anywhere else for other ones. So that was just what it is. It's not like I deliberately chose.
Yeah. My connection's not great today, sorry, so I missed a little bit of that. But comparing the cultures then, the cultures of Hong Kong, the culture of the UK, the culture of Belgium, how did that make you, apart from when you felt homesick in terms of there not being much of a I would say a Chinese New Year celebration, how did you overcome those cultural differences in the different environments, especially here in the UK and in Belgium?
You do have to brand in, really. I obviously you feel like home when you talk to another person coming from Hong Kong or something. But really you do have to brand into the local community and the UK environment, really. You can't live like Hong Kong in the UK, so I mean, because I've been here for so long, to me, I feel I belong here. Because I wasn't born with the British citizenship. I came over here because I've been so long, then I acquired it. So when you do this acquirement thing, you have to do the ceremony and stuff. So I participated that, and then that's where you felt you really belong here, etc. And I started a family here, so that again is another feeling of belong here. My daughter was born here. She's growing up here.
So all of those things are now giving you that sense of belonging, those familial ties which you're now establishing here in the UK, a solid, secure job. I want to just kind of like pick up on something with regards to your experience of Pfizer. I know that maybe I should put a little cross there, because it doesn't sound like that experience at Pfizer was something which really, it helped you to understand what you knew you didn't want in terms of discrimination. Did you feel you were discriminated against?
I think so, because I mean, the accusation was made wrong completely. I mean, they didn't. I mean, from what I remember, no one ever asked, about those CDs, and it's just somebody make the accusation. So and really, they just based on the fact that she must be dodgy. She's selling these CDs so cheap.
So you never found out who it was who made the allegation, but you're left with that feeling of somebody.
Yes, I left with that feeling. It was very upsetting those days.
Yeah, because you're being accused of something and you don't even know who the accuser was.
And I didn't even do it.
And you didn't, exactly. And so in terms of cultural or that sense of identity, sense of belonging to a place. Plus, they also treated you as a second-class employee in the way that it meant that you couldn't wait to get out of there.
Exactly.
Yeah, couldn't wait. I totally understand that. But at Imperial, it sounds as though your experience has been more positive.
Yes.
You've been at Imperial since 2008. So
yeah.
If I know that I've had guests who have been on for longer, but you don't stay in a place for as long as you have, if you haven't gained that sense of belonging, that sense of I enjoy the environment which I'm
exactly
in.
Yeah.
So if you could summarize what it is that you feel that, I'm not trying to do a promo for Imperial, but what is it that you feel that has helped you to gain that sense of belonging here at Imperial College?
So when I changed from being on contract as a postdoctoral to a permanent employee with Imperial, I just felt that Imperial was being supportive. Like they do try to they do try to retain the existing staff, shall I say, because they were really trying to help me to find another job within Imperial at the time. That's from what I remember. Then I joined the current department, and it was quite a nice team to work with. My line manager was very supportive. He's retired now. He doesn't work for Imperial anymore. He was very supportive. He understood, starting a young family, it wasn't easy, childcare and things like that, and he was very supportive. And Imperial also have flexible working policy, etc. And the maternity leave policy was good enough. Some other company might be better, but it's good enough.
Yeah.
Especially compared to where I came from, Hong Kong, maternity leave is very short. You don't get just time with your newborn.
Yeah.
Then when I was on maternity for almost a year. So when I first came back, it did take me a short while to fully get back full swing to things. But my line manager was very supportive. Helping here and there. And then obviously then my role progressed to a more senior role. So to me, it does feel like Imperial do try to retain their staff. And if I have to be honest, I did want to leave only because like I said, I work in London, but I don't live in London. So I was hoping to be able to have shorter distance of commute. But it didn't quite work out at the end, because I think I got a job, not offer, but job interview. But then I couldn't make it because we were already booked on holiday the following week. If you see what I mean. And then over the COVID time, when I was comparing Imperial and the other organization that I could have worked for, Imperials appear to be more supportive during the COVID pandemic time, really. So I was quite glad that I didn't change at the end. That's how I feel anyway.
That you've been, I totally understand about the commuting and having a young family, but to an extent what you've said is that having done almost like an evaluation of the pros and the cons, for you, Imperial has kind of like lived up to an expectation of being a good employer for you.
For me, yes. Some people will not agree, but for me, yes.
But so that's why I said for you, which is good. What I normally do about this time is to open up to see if there are questions from the audience. I've got a couple more which I'd like, but if there's anyone who's listening in who'd like to ask a question, if you want to raise your hand or come on camera, just let me know now, and then you can ask your questions. If not, I'll just carry on and ask another one. I don't see any questions at the moment, so let me just ask another one then. Of your listen, we're not gonna. It's the assumptions that were made, or the assumptions, especially with the situation at Pfizer. It was the lack of how can I put it? Whoever the person was didn't have the courage to come and ask you directly, and just wanted to just inform on you, and never actually spent the time to actually find out what was going on with these CDs. And that to me is, that's not an environment which is conducive of honesty or authenticity, because you can't be, if you can't go up and say, well, I've heard this or I've done that. I know you've got different characters and stuff like that, but I do also think that ability to be able to go and have a straight, honest conversation with someone is so important in development of a good, cohesive working environment. So I suppose the question I would ask now, because you've been at Imperial for the number of years, do you feel that at Imperial, if there was a situation, you'd be able to go up and have an open and honest conversation with those around you?
I think so. I mean, there's a different way of, there's definitely some support you could go and talk to, and you could ask, and I think so.
Yeah, that's kind of like the essence, I think. And what would you say would be the essence of your sense of belonging at Imperial?
Essence. I think first of all, you do need to enjoy what you're doing, wherever you are, and that you see that you have experience, or you know, or you see that the organization have this way or this system or policy in place to support you when you need to, and that the people that you work with, or etc., that they all what's the word? They all and what's the word to describe it? You know, the Imperial values and behavior. Yeah. So that everybody,
they uphold the values system.
Yeah. And I think that's when you will feel that you belong somewhere. That's how I feel anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. Somewhere where you can feel you can set down roots, as it were. Somewhere where you can feel that your opinions are valued and sought after, and not necessarily, and not sidelined. Because I think definitely at Pfizer, it sounded to me like you felt sidelined.
Yes. I mean, they were just the kind of like the people who are the Pfizer employee. They all went for lunch and stuff. I think when I joined, I did join the Christmas meal at the time, but it just didn't feel like I belonged there.
Yeah. That's really poor management.
Yeah, that's long gone now.
That's long gone. That's long gone. That's in the past now, right? As Rafiki said, it's in the past. But now that you're in charge of managing people, I'm just thinking about it, because you've got a small team. How do you want your employees or your co-workers to view the way in which you've developed that sense of belonging for them?
Obviously, would like the team have the same vision or share some of it at least.
Yeah.
And in order to have an efficient and well-functioning team, they do have to share the same vision. Right, and everybody should be on board with the Imperial expectation, which now Imperial values and behavior. And that we are actually working as a team, not just yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
So that is what I think. It's not just me. I think everybody who manage a team would like to see that, really.
Yeah. So, I'm going to ask some final question then, and that final.
Okay.
I'm going to ask this final question, and the final question is about. I'm not sure if you'd have changed. I'm going to just ask it. What advice would you have given to your 16-year-old self? Because it sounds like your 16-year-old self had quite a clear vision of what they wanted anyhow, but what advice would you have given to your 16-year-old self about where they would end up and what they could potentially do?
16-year-old self?
16 or 18.
Right. You mean like to like teenager, well, people
a
just
teenager
before,
you're making some key decisions, but the thing is you made a key decision at 18 or about 18 after.
Well, my advice would be not to be reluctant to change, right. Because you never know what's there until you actually make the first step. So you are 16 and 18, you are young. You're still very young. You've got a whole life in front of you. But if you if you are not willing to change, you're not willing to explore, to take the adventure, to take the next step, then you're very limited. You won't see the whole world. Even now, I'm more than halfway through my life. I don't think I've seen enough yet.
Yeah. I like that. I know I haven't seen enough yet, and I would like to see more. And I do like that idea of don't be resistant to change, embrace it, make that first step, which I think is really valid advice. Take that first step. You don't know where it's going to lead, but it starts off with that first step. Yeah. So Yo-Yo, it's been absolutely brilliant listening to your story, hearing about your experiences. And I want to just wish you all the very best. It's been really good. So I'm going to just let people know what's going to be happening next week for Belonging. So next week, we're going to have Mary Caspino Brewer, who is the due diligence manager at Imperial College. And if you haven't seen or some of the other interviews, please go to our YouTube channel, which is at tinyurl.com/belonging-IAO, where you'll be able to see and hear some of the other videos or some of the other interviews that we've done. But I want to just say a big thank you once again to Yo-Yo for being our guest, and I'd like to wish everyone a happy bank holiday, and I will see you again next week. So thank you all.
Thank you.